Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Hi-Fi Preschool and Kids Weekly Training Podcast. My name's Kayla, and I am joined with two of our amazing team members, Crystal and Rachel from the Hi-Fi team. Now, if you've been with us for this last month, you know that we have been talking in the preschool space about how God knows me, and in the kids space, we've been talking about I am known. So we've had a lot of fun this month talking about different ways that God knows us and what he knows about us and how that is incredible and a part of who we are and how we know God more is just brings us a lot of joy and understanding of how God knows us. And because he knows us, we can live into that identity as followers of Jesus. And today we are going to be talking about gearing up for this coming week, which, as you guys know, is Hooray Day and Game Changer. So this is our 5th week that we get to talk about Hooray Day, Game Changer. We get to pump up the energy. And so this is our very first Hooray Day Game Changer for this next rotation of content. And so we are so excited. There's going to be some new things that are coming that we'll get to. But just such a fun day where we really pump up the energy, have more excitement, have more engagement, have more games in that kids space, and really just have a lot of fun making the gospel loud and clear. So this is an opportunity for those kids to invite in their friends who might be new to church or maybe who haven't been in a while, and really just help everyone feel welcome and included and like they belong. So as we kick off, Rachel and Crystal, I would love to hear from you guys. Just what's your favorite part about Hooray Day in preschool or Game Changer in kids? Like, this is something that's really different in this space than we see out in the wild in other places, where we take an intentional time on that 5th week to really lean into the gospel, to have a lot of fun. So I just want to hear from you guys. Like, what's something you love about Hooray Day, Rachel?
I love getting to lead preschoolers and saying hooray and celebrating how amazing God is. And one thing I'm really excited that you all are going to get to experience this week is the Hooray Day Parade. It's brand new for this rotation, and it's going to be such a fun way to get our preschoolers up and moving and celebrating and being engaged in how much fun Hooray Day is and getting to celebrate how good God is.
Yes, it's so fun in that preschool space to provide an opportunity for those preschoolers to celebrate God. Like, we're not celebrating ourselves, but we get to have fun at church and celebrate God. And I think that's just such a fun thing to teach preschoolers at that foundational level. So yes, Rachel mentioned that we have a new Hooray Day parade that is so fun. A couple other things that are coming for Hooray Day. We have an optional kind of special guest with Hooray Day. And so you have the opportunity in that flip relationships that we always kind of talk about and highlight once a month. You get to, in the preschool space, invite someone from that friend, leader, influencer, pastor into that space with you for your preschooler to see and interact with. This is not a big commitment. It's 10, maybe 15 minutes right at the end of large group. And so be on the lookout for that. There is also, you guys, such a sweet video. I'm so proud of our media team and everyone who went into the creation of this video. We're going to be talking about the 3 circles with preschoolers. And so this is the very first time we're kind of debuting this video about how can we lay those gospel foundations with preschool. And so you'll notice there's not a gospel response. We don't do gospel responses in preschool, but what we do is we just want to give those simple pieces of gospel foundations that just really starts laying the foundation and helping a preschooler understand the story that God has given and also how we fit into it. So those are some fun things for you guys to be looking out for Hooray Day. Oh, and I almost forgot. I know I'm super excited about this. One more thing. We have a really cool Hooray Day decorations pack. So if you go to lifeway.com, if you're looking for a way to just make your space a little extra special, We have some fun digital decorations that you can download and use in your space, and you can use these all throughout the year. So we've made it to where it works for every Hooray Day throughout this next year. So that will be a fun addition if you're interested in making that space just feel a little different, feel a little extra special, extra celebratory for this month. You can check that out on lifeway.com. All right, Crystal, talk up to us about Game Changer. What is something that you just really love about Game Changer sessions? I know it's hard to pick just one thing, but tell us something that you love about Game Changer.
Well, in the kids space, we hear a lot of time from you users that how much you love the stage games. And so one of my favorite parts of Game Changer is that we actually have three stage games instead of one, but also that they are directly connected to earning points for your team. So there's a winner at the end. And so our main idea video that comes at the beginning is this fun, Game Changer game show, and you've got a contestant that's participating in something. And then they have a bonus round at the end. And the video that you show is actually for the winning team of who has won those stage games that you've done throughout the session. And while I love the energy and I love the fun, but I really think what it does is it helps all of those kids feel like they are part of a team, feel like they belong. And we know because we specifically are picking these Bible stories and these main ideas that are really leaning into being able to have a response to the truth of the gospel, kids are going to be more open to being a part of that discussion during their team time because they've just had so much fun together in large group. And so I love the high energy, the increased participation during large group that then leads to this deeper participation as kids move into teen time. So super excited.
That is incredible. I would concur. Like the stage games are so fun, but exactly what you said, that element of feeling like I am participating, I am part of this team. As we know in Hi-Fi, we have that outsider in strategy. And this is a great space in this large group time where these kids go pretty quickly from feeling like an outsider to feeling like that core insider participant,
Mm-hmm.
particularly with these stage games and all the fun interaction that they get to have there. So I agree. I would say for me, one of the things I'm most excited about with Hooray Days and Game Changers for this upcoming year is the main ideas that we get to teach and to talk about with kids and preschoolers. So, listeners, we are talking about in this year something that's very intentional and dialed in and strategic about your kid and your preschooler and what God says is true about them, which is an overarching value of Hi-Fi, right? It's kind of the foundational core. But we really are leaning in on these Game Changer Hooray Days throughout this year to talk about the identity of this child in a way that deeply reflects the character and heart of God. So this week, we're talking about how God values you. In December, we're going to talk about how God is always with you. When we get over into March, we're going to be talking about how God rescues you. In June, we're going to be talking about how God says you matter. And then, way next August, we're going to be talking about how God makes you new. And so, all of these main ideas end with you, which is a little bit different than how we do main ideas in general. But the reason we felt so compelled to do it this way this year is because we really want to lean in and help kids understand the value that God has for them, who He is, His rescue for them, that He says that they matter and that He is the one who makes them new. So I'm really excited about just the opportunities that we have this year to really lean into those identity statements and those identity pieces in Game Changer, to even on a deeper level to dial in just a little bit more and help kids understand who they are because of
Mm-hmm.
who God says they are, that
Mm-hmm.
their identity is rooted in who God says that they are, not in who they say they are. So that's what we're going to do this year. And so we're really excited about it. And to kick us off with this very first Game Changer Hooray Day of this next year, we are going to be talking about the story of Jesus and the children. Now, this is a pretty short story that comes from just a few verses in Matthew and a few verses in Mark, but it's really, really important, particularly in the ages and spaces that we are serving. So, Crystal, will you talk us through a little bit? We've wanted to do this story of Jesus and the children from a really long time. And why did we feel like this was the right place to put it? What is significant about the heart of this story and how it reflects the value of who God says kids and preschoolers are?
Absolutely. Well, first off, I feel like we need to shout out Jana Magruder because she's been the one from the beginning. If you all don't know, Jana Magruder is, one of the authors of Flip the Script. She's been at the forefront of creating and developing Hi-Fi. She's still very involved. And every single time we talk about Bible stories, she is like, when are we doing Jesus and the children? I feel like Jesus and the children is the heart of Hi-Fi. So we are so excited to finally be doing this as a Bible story, and really why I think it is so hi-fi. And I think especially too that it's so great for one of these Hooray Day Game Changer weeks is that it's this idea of like God values you right now, who you are. Preschoolers and kids are constantly faced with this thought and this idea of like, you are growing up, you are becoming, like in the future, you're going to get to do this. And we love speaking into that. That leads like speaking into who God is creating them to be, who they can be as they're teenagers and they're adults. Like that is great. It fills them with hope, it fills them with purpose. But this week, we get to say, God values you as a child, as a 4-year-old, as a 10-year-old. Right now, God sees you, He knows you, He loves you, and He thinks that you are important, not because of anything that you've done, not because you've had to work really hard to prove yourself, but He just values you. And so that moment in this Bible story where Jesus is sitting and there are parents wanting to bring their kids up to this rabbi to have him bless, which that was something in that time culturally that parents would do. They would bring their kids to be blessed by the rabbi. And Jesus's disciples bless those men in their good hearts and sometimes good intentions that weren't always great. They're like, no, 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 he's too busy, he's too busy, like he's got all this teaching, he's doing miracles, all this kinds of stuff. And Jesus is like, absolutely not. Like, I value these kids just as much as I value adults, just as much as I value you disciples, just as much as I value the people that I'm healing. I value kids. I see them, I know them, and I love them. And what a great message for our preschoolers and our kids today. God values you right now, right at your age, right at your stage. You are valuable, important, and loved by God. So it's going to be a great, great week. And I'm thinking about a preschooler or kid coming to church for the very first time. Oh, what a great thing to learn.
Thanks, Crystal. Yeah, I love in this story. I'm looking at Matthew 19 now, and when you were talking about how God values you right now as you are, like kids don't have anything to bring, right? And so like
Hmm.
sometimes as adults, we fall into this trap of thinking like, well, I've earned, like I can do this or I can do that or I can clean myself up and bring these things to God. And I
Hmm.
love how the Lord uses this because it was the same in that culture, if not more so, that there wasn't a lot of value around what kids could contribute to the household at that time. And so Jesus says, you know, talking to his disciples and rebuking them, leave the children alone. Don't try to keep them from coming to me because the kingdom of heaven belongs to such as these. It
Hmm.
belongs to people who know their value is not in what they do, it is in who God has already said that they are,
Hmm.
and is who God has made them to be, not in what I try to bring. So, what a
Hmm.
sweet message to teach to preschoolers and to kids of the value that we have, that they have right now before the Lord, not because they can, do certain things, but because of who God has already said that they are, who he
Hmm.
created and made them to be. And they're valuable because they have the fingerprints of the creator on them.
Hmm.
And so I just think that's such a cool thing to be able to talk about with kids and preschoolers. All right. So Rachel, can you walk us through about the way that God values preschoolers and kids and how that's different than the world teaches about value? Because we know in hi-fi we try to define a lot of things because we know in our culture the words that we use don't always have the same meaning, and we don't want to
Hmm.
assume that the words that we are saying mean the same thing to different people. And so when we come to this word value, we know that that word can be interpreted differently inside the church and outside the church. So talk to us a little bit of how does teaching God's value of us, how is that different than how a preschool or a kid might bump into that word within the culture?
So, we're teaching that value means when you have value, you're special and you're important. And as we explain that in our sessions, we're also talking about how God values you and he treasures you, that you're very special to him. And a lot of times in our culture and in the world, people use the word value to mean something that is important to them, but usually it's something that, like Crystal had talked about, contributes to them. It's money or a social media presence or followers, and it's something, it has value to you because you get something from it, and almost like a currency. But the way God talks about value and the way this Bible story teaches us about our value is that we are valuable because of who God made us to be. Every preschooler and kid that walks into your classroom is valuable because of how God has made them, because of who he is and how he has knitted them to be. And so it's going to be such a neat opportunity to not say, you are valuable because you offer this, or because you wear this, or you say this, or you're funny, or you're smart, or you're athletic. None of those things have anything to do with your value. You are valuable because of who God made you to be, not
Hmm.
just who he made you to be in the future, but who he made you to be right now, who
Hmm.
you are. And I know that there are going to be adults in the room who wrestle with value. There are going to be kids and preschoolers in the room who wrestle with value. Kids may come from a home where they don't feel valued and they don't understand that they have value because of who they are and who God made them to be. And it's going to be such an incredible opportunity to tell preschoolers and kids that you are valuable. God made you valuable and he values you. He treasures you, and not because of something you can offer, but because of who you are.
That is so good, Rachel. Thank you so much for sharing that. And it just reminds me of, man, this is one of the reasons I love this resource. I love that we as leaders get the opportunity to speak truth in places of darkness, to speak
Hmm.
truth in places where lies are loud, to say that your value comes from fill in the blank,
Hmm.
to be able to say no, your value, who you are, is only comes from the Lord. And you're not to put you were never made to put your identity and your value in anything else. And that's where we see brokenness in our world, where we try to chase after and run after things that the Lord never intended us to find our fullest value and identity and satisfaction in. I think that
Hmm.
is also a good lesson for us as leaders. It's not just God values you, preschooler, God values you, third grader, that God values you, second grade teacher and kindergarten teacher and 2-year-old teacher. That our value and who we are and how God has designed and made us, it comes from the Lord. It doesn't come from our gifts. It doesn't come from what we feel like we have to offer. It doesn't come from our social status or how long we've been serving in kids ministry. Um, our value comes from our identity in Christ. And it's such a joy to remember and to know that that our value comes from the Lord. And it also really encourages and helps us to be more grace-filled and to be more patient with kids and with preschoolers in those moments of challenge when we may not feel like we're in control of the situation, or, when that marker goes flying across the room and I wasn't expecting that. That we can remember that in those moments of challenge, which they come, we know they come. Sometimes they come on Game Changer and Hooray days because it's high energy, and so we get kids all excited. But that in those moments we can remember that our value is not in what we do, that we are all still broken people, and also that we can be filled with grace, and we can be filled with patience that doesn't come from us, that comes from the Lord, to remember and know that this time, these moments, the small amount of flicker of time that we have with these kids and preschoolers is so sweet and special and valuable. And whether or not they remember the story, whether or not they, actually completed their craft, or whether, they just played a game and that's all they remember and they had fun at church, we are building small moments and building blocks, small foundations for kids to feel safe, to feel seen, to feel valued, not just by us, but also by the Lord. And so all of those things the Lord works through and uses and interacts with to lead a preschooler and a kid's heart closer to the heart of Him. And so for that, we are so, so grateful. So leaders, thank you so much for all that you do. We are continually just amazed and in awe of the work that you do, the way that you lead, and know that we are here cheering you on and championing you as you lead and as you interact with kids and preschoolers this next week. So I'm going to give a quick shout out because Etch starts so soon. If you are coming to the conference, please stop by and say hello. We want to meet you. We want to see your faces. We want to hear your stories. We would love to connect with you. And also, just as a way of what's coming up, we have a new Simple Truth and new themes that are coming next week for the month of October. We are talking in the preschool space about how God forgives me. And in the kids space, we're talking about I am forgiven. Oh my goodness, you guys, you're not going to want to miss October. One of my favorites for preschool, our big deal, you guys, is 1, 2, 3, God forgives me. And it's just the sweetest thing ever. I don't want to give any spoilers away, but man, the way we get to talk about forgiveness and the gospel, particularly in introducing this at the preschool level, it's just going to blow your mind. It's so, so good. In the kids space, we're talking about switch it up and how God forgives me. And you are not going to want to miss watching these videos. I love the theme song in this one this month. It's so fun. It's right on target with where our kids are right now, and I think they're just going to love it. So you're not going to want to miss our next episode where we really unpack everything that we're going to be talking about for October. And until then, we will talk to you soon.